Welcome on today's conversation on the future of work, where AI isn't just a buzzword, but a business driver. This is Lenovo Work Reborn, live in Orlando. Hey, Steve, welcome to the Work Reborn podcast. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks, Rita. And you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so happy that you came over to chat with us today to really give us some of your insights as to how you are bringing new life into the modern workplace within your
Yes,
organization.
happy to. Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming. So Steve, I heard that you are the Chief Information Security Officer within your organization. Do you mind telling us just a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Steve Farini, and I am, as you mentioned, the Chief Information Security Officer for the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. It's a government organization that offers workplace insurance for injured workers. It operates like an insurance company, so employers pay premiums, and those premiums then go towards covering workers in the event of an injury. And so if you get hurt at work, or if, heaven forbid, you pass away because of a workplace incident, we would step in and we would either help you return back to work, hopefully in the same job, or we'll help find alternative means of work. Or, if, like I said, in the event that there's a bad injury, then we'll help with that as well.
Well, you bring up really useful use case here as it relates to our conversation, because we actually interviewed over 600 senior IT leaders around topics that are top of mind, one of them being cybersecurity and risk. And as you're talking to me, I'm thinking about how important it must be for your organization to protect the data, and cybersecurity being, really an important matter as it relates to some of that sensitive content that you're dealing with on a daily basis. What does that look like for you and your perspective on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so for us, it's extremely important for a couple of reasons. The first one is, as you said, we've got a lot of sensitive data. A lot of it is health information, which means legislatively, we've got some requirements that we have to comply with. But we're also holding, extremely sensitive data that we don't want people to get out, obviously. And so the other side of that is our data is significant because the way the legislation that applies to us works, you can essentially open a claim at any point in time. And so we have to keep a lot of our claims data, claims related and injury related data indefinitely, which only sort of increases the footprint, and which increases the risk for us from a cybersecurity perspective. And so making sure that we understand where that data is and protecting it accordingly so that only people who need it have access to it is really a key for us.
Yeah, you brought up the importance of how this sensitive material and contents that you are dealing with a day-to-day increase risk, especially due to the nature of it.
Yep.
And, other leaders feel the same way. The industry conversations are including that raised concern that while AI is great and really, impacting the way we work, there are some concerns around how it could impact the organization. For example, deep fakes or cloned voices or synthetic emails, especially in the work that you do, that could be detrimental to an organization. So what are you doing to prepare employees to spot and respond to these new forms of attacks so that they are educated and aware?
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to employees, it may be a new concept, but, educating employees has always been a real key factor for cybersecurity. With AI, it just increases that need significantly. And so, as you said, deep fakes, really well-crafted spam or ransomware messages make things much more difficult. And so what we're doing is we're sort of attacking it, if you will, on a number of different fronts. The first one being user education. We're really trying to create a culture of cybersecurity. We do a lot of training with them. We have a cybersecurity awareness month conference where we put on a number of different sessions, and staff could come and drop into all or some of them. And it covers a whole range of topics. We help focus on building that culture by not only just talking about workplace related cybersecurity, but even things that apply to your home. So how to connect to a Wi-Fi, how to use hotspots securely. Because our feeling is that if you have this notion of cybersecurity built into you, whether it's at home or at work, in the end, it benefits work more than anything else. And so there's a lot of effort put into that. We also have, on the back end, on the operational side, we have a number of tools that we've put in place to try and catch and block a lot of this email or spam mail that might go to staff. So our tools do a pretty good job. We're, I think, at a 95 or 98% success rate, but
Wow.
some do get through, and that's where the education and sort of awareness comes in.
Would you say that the AI that you've implemented to detect risk, is it more predictive or proactive at this point?
So it's a little bit of both, I
Okay.
think. So we're using AI, as, on the positive side, we're using AI related tools to help understand user behavior. And so, a lot of these new type of attacks include something called business email compromise, which tries to impersonate, our CEO as an example, or our CFO, and send an email to somebody's staff to maybe, for example, transfer money. And so the AI tools are able to say, well, Steve doesn't normally email, Fred as an example. This email seems a little out of context. Let's flag it for a review just in case. And so it's able to understand people's behavior a lot better and raise those flags and allow us to kind of track them down before they become a problem.
From a cybersecurity standpoint, obviously implementing AI is really something that requires a lot of thought in advance, right? And a lot of leaders that we have spoken to are a little concerned about how to make sure it's safe and secure when they do implement it into their workplace.
Right.
So when you have implemented it, what have you done to make sure to take the proper precautions and protocols that's not a concern after the fact?
So we do, we do a couple of things. One, we do a test. So we'll test out some of the solutions to make sure that they've been implemented appropriately, that they are acting in the way that they are. And then it comes back to training and awareness from the staff, not just from the sort of, non-IT staff, but also the security staff, so that they can make sure that as the solutions are running appropriately, that they are working the way they're intended to.
What do you think the future of work looks like? We call it Work Reborn at Lenovo. With all of the things that we've talked about now, it's, kind of we're getting used to it, but what could
Yeah.
it be later?
Yeah. I mean, as a security person, I'm naturally a cynic, and so
Which is good for your role.
Yes, exactly. And so it's true. And so I think the future for me is a little frightening because, as AI improves, so does the ability for, malicious actors to create things that take advantage of any vulnerabilities within systems and people. And so for us, it really is about making sure that we're continuing to stay on top, looking at the latest AI tools for us to be able to leverage and protect our data and our systems and our people. But I think, you'll see, more, working from home, more working remotely, more, all of this started with, the COVID
Right.
and it seems to have continued. And I think many organizations are still on that work from home, which just, again, from a security perspective, just broadens the footprint of risk for us.
Right.
And so we really need to keep a close eye on those kind of things.
So it seems like you are just the right person for us to have spoken to today, and you're really passionate what you do, and I really appreciate that the time that you've taken today for
I
us.
appreciate it. Thank you.
If we were to close out this conversation, what words of advice or encouragement would you give, a CISO or a tech leader who's trying to navigate all of this
Wow,
right
okay.
now?
Words of advice. I think really it comes down to working with those around you, both from security perspective. So networking is keys. Sharing those stories around, experiences is really important. I know I've learned a lot from some of my colleagues around some of the incidents that they had to deal with. And then, it's helped me deal with those much more quickly. But then from a security perspective, making sure that you have really strong response plans and recovery plans. I know there's a long-standing joke within cybersecurity which says it's not a question of when, if, it's when. And so it's becoming more and more true. And so as an organization and as a security professional, you really have to make sure that you have your recovery plans set so that when the time does come that you have to go through an incident, you're able to respond and recover much more quickly.
I appreciate your time today, Steve. Thank you
No,
so
I
much.
appreciate your time. Thank
For
you.
anyone who's interested in learning more about the Work Reborn report, make sure you download it via the link in the description below. And if you're watching us on YouTube, scan the QR code somewhere over here on the screen to grab a copy for yourself. And we will catch you on the next episode. That's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for joining us live in Orlando for this amazing episode of Work Reborn. I've been your host, Rita Risha, and it's been a pleasure to bring you insightful conversations from around the world, especially at this event, on how we are bringing new life to the modern workplace. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to stay tuned on more ways that we are doing just that, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe our channel, and download a copy of the Work Reborn report today.
Lenovo.